Ashley Hardaway, and grief placed me here. Most people don't like to talk about grief because it's uncomfortable, which it is uncomfortable. But today I really want to tackle the elephant in the room, the one thing that everybody has to deal with at some point in life, and that's loss. How do you handle loss? What are you supposed to do when loss literally knocks you down to your feet? What are you supposed to do when loss literally knocks you down to your knees, and the very foundation that you stood on is now broken and shattered, sometimes feeling broken beyond repair? How do you get back up? More than likely, we've all dealt with loss, and even if by chance you haven't, at some point you will. And when you're in that place, the question is, what do you do? How do you handle it? How do you keep going? 2013, my life drastically changed. My cousin, young, out of the blue, unexpected, passed. It rocked our world. No one really knew how to handle it. No one really knew what to do. My family and I grew up with a strong spiritual foundation. There are moments when pain is so difficult and hardship is so challenging, the very foundation that you once stood on can become shaken. 2013, our world was rocked. That was the first time I experienced depression. There was once a point in time in life where I couldn't understand how a drug addict became a drug addict, how an alcoholic became an alcoholic. But when I experienced depression for myself, I found out why someone would do anything just to numb pain, even if it's only for a few minutes. 2013 comes. My cousin's funeral was on a Saturday. My family and I decided that we would, after the funeral was over, stay another night, get up to drive back home Sunday morning for church. My father was a pastor. The day after my cousin's funeral, Sunday morning, we're traveling back to Tennessee. My mom needs to use the restroom, and so we're in two separate cars, call the car ahead of us. We tell them, hey, mom needs to use the restroom. So of course, okay, we're gonna pull off. Wasn't a minute later, my sister called back from the car in front of us, and she said, I can't wake Dad up, I can't wake Dad up. So we pulled over, rushed out of the car, and he woke up. A few minutes, he did wake up. We ended up staying in the hospital in Chattanooga about 4 days. And that's when things really started to take a turn. We found out how my father's health was declining, and these were all things that we didn't know. So once he was finally released from the hospital, we started attempting to help him change his diet, try to get an exercise, and it just seemed like one thing after another, one thing after another. He had to have a sleep study done, this surgery, that surgery, another surgery, and he ended up starting dialysis. He would go on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So he was a school teacher as well as a full-time pastor. So during the week, when he would get off work, he would drive himself to Cleveland. He would take his 4-hour treatment, and then one of us would come to pick him up to drive him back home. He was losing weight, so happy. To us, it seemed like, okay, things are getting better. And then March 22nd, 2015, our world was rocked again. I was home cooking greens. I randomly wanted a pot of greens, and I had to run to the store, so I turned the stove off, go to the store, and as I'm pulling in, I get a call from my mom. Actually, the call came from my dad's phone. So I answered the phone, figuring it would be him. I had talked to him a couple hours before, and it's my mom, and I hear her yelling. And she says, "Ashley, I can't wake your dad up. I can't wake your dad up." And of course, in my head, I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe this is just what happened the last time. So I get in my car. It's raining. I remember it was raining that night. Get in my car, turn on the flashers, head straight over to the house. I really don't even remember putting the car in park. I just remember getting in the house. Got inside of the house. My mom was standing at the foot of the bed. My dad was in the bed. So I run around to his side of the bed, and my dad was 6'2", 6'3". He was tall. He was a big man. So I asked my mom to help me to try to flatten out his body. So we attempted together to straighten out his body, and once we finally got him as flat as possible, I attempted CPR. Of course, in my head, the classes that I had taken prior to, I started thinking, okay, compressions, how many compressions, then breathing, then the compressions again. Finally, the ambulance did get there. And at this time, I really started getting worried because there had been multiple times that he had fallen asleep before, and it had taken him a while to wake up, but it had never been this long. So I went outside. I called my uncle, which is my dad's brother. I let him know, we can't get Dad up. I need you to get over here. I called my baby sister, which she was with my older sister, and as calmly as possible, I told her, "Ariel, I need you to go wake up Angel, and I need you to come to the house. We cannot wake Dad up." My baby brother was in Knoxville. My oldest brother was in Chattanooga. I felt comfortable calling my older brother, but I knew I didn't want my baby brother traveling from Knoxville. So I called a friend of ours in Knoxville, and I told him, hey, we can't get my father up. We're on our way to the ER, and I need you to go and pick my brother up. He didn't ask any questions. He just said, okay. So once the ambulance was there, my uncle had gotten to the house, my cousin had gotten there, both my sisters. Once I got him loaded up, we followed the ambulance to the ER. So they placed us in a waiting room, of course, while they worked on him. And we're sitting there in the waiting room, of course, praying. So at this point, we had made a few calls. So there were a few people coming to the hospital. I can't remember how long exactly we were there in the waiting room. But the doctor came out, and he looked at us and he said, "I'm sorry to tell you this, but Mr. Hardaway has passed." Instantly, my mom just falls straight to the floor, and I'm just standing there in shock. And I say to myself, no, this isn't it. So he tells us, you guys can go back, and I had already decided I'm gonna go back, and God, you say that you're the God who heals, and I want to see a miracle, and I've been wanting to see a miracle, and I didn't get it with my cousin, so I'm hoping that today's going to be the day. I'm going to get to see the dead come back to life. And so we walked back to the room, and my plan was to lay my hands on his feet and to begin praying for him. And as soon as I laid my hands on his feet, I heard God say, "Be at peace." And I just began to weep. As I began to walk up to see my dad. My lipstick, my purple lipstick, it was still on his mouth, his lips. And I think we were all just numb for a while. Finally made it home that night. Of course, visitors are coming, piling in. We knew that we were going to have to make calls and set up the funeral. So we're calling around, we're making calls. It's March 22nd, that was a Sunday. We knew that we would need some time in order to get everyone that was connected to him, our family, in town. So throughout the week, it was one of those things, I don't think I was ever alone from Sunday up until Saturday. People coming, bringing food, just in abundance. We had his funeral, and then that's when things really changed. That's when life really, the reality of what life is now, that's when it really started to set in. And I realized all those visitors, they were nowhere to be found. All of the people who said, "We're going to be there with you guys, we're going to walk with you," not many were there. And I guess I can consider this rock bottom. I found that place that I've heard many people call rock bottom. About six months after my father passed, I had an accident, random accident, that forced me to have 2 major reconstructive surgeries. I almost lost my pinky. And I remember after the first surgery, I was so lost. I was so low. I felt like every week I was having to go to the doctor, having chest pains. I felt as if I was having a heart attack. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. And this went on for a good year, the first year and a half. So the night after my first surgery on my pinky, I remember being at home. And at this point in time, I was on antidepressants. I had Xanax to help with the anxiety. I had another prescription to help me sleep. I had another prescription to help me not be so nauseous. And I was sitting there on my bed. My right hand was in a cast. and I see these prescription bottles near me, and I thought to myself, do I even want to be here? Do I really want to live? Because there's no way that this is what life is, and I don't think I can keep doing this. Of course, Google tells us everything we need to know. So I Googled how many Xanaxes would I need to take to OD. So I read Google the results. The time of the accident that I considered the freak accident, I felt like that was what pushed me over the edge. But in reality, that injury saved my life. Due to my right hand being in a cast, I wasn't able to open the bottle of Xanaxes. I probably tried to open the bottle for a good 5 minutes, could never get the top opened. Whenever I did get the top open, the Xanaxes just flew everywhere on the floor. And I was so worn out and so frustrated at that time, I had no desire to even put anything in my mouth. And I remember crying myself to sleep. And when I woke up the next morning, realizing, okay, it's still me, I'm still here, I'm okay. And I told God, I don't know what you're doing. And I don't know why you did what you did. But if you keep breathing into me, I promise you, I will live my life to bring glory to your name. And I will use this pain to help somebody else. No one told me that grief was so lonely. No one told me that it's scary. No one told me that people would leave because they were uncomfortable. No one told me that people would expect me to act like it didn't happen. Oftentimes I would ask myself, if I can just find someone, I wish that I could find someone who's been through this. My siblings and I, we share this common loss, but each relationship is different. My struggle wasn't just the loss of my father, it was the loss of my father, my pastor, my coach. And then on top of that, my attempt to revive him. I found myself angry at people, lost faith in God and definitely in people. Sometimes I wished that I could just, turn on and kick it into gear and keep going, but I couldn't do that. I couldn't just act like everything was okay. There were days where I just needed someone to tell me, hey Ashley, it's okay to not be okay. There were days that I needed someone to tell me, it's okay to cry. But oftentimes I would hear things like, your dad wouldn't want you crying. Your cousin's in a better place. None of those things helped. I struggled, and I just wish that I would have had a safe haven, I wish that I would have had a community of people who got it, who just understood. I didn't have that. But I found myself thinking, I want to create that for someone. I want to give someone a safe place to go to. I want to walk with someone hand in hand on their journey. I want to tell them, hey, it's okay to cry. I remember telling God, this was within the first year following the death of my father. I was so angry. And I remember crying and asking God, why would you put me and my family in such a life-threatening position? People tell us not to question God, but when you're in a relationship with someone, having conversation, especially asking questions to get clarity, it's not off limits. I asked God this question, and God responded to my question. And He told me, I didn't put you here to die, but I put you here to birth something in you that can't be birthed any other way. I didn't get that then. But it's starting to make sense to me now. Oftentimes our low places are the places in which God chooses to just plant us. Seeds need rain. Seeds need messy soil. Seeds need care and love. And God does know what's best. And it won't always feel good. And we wouldn't always make that choice. But His choices are flawless. Every single thing He does is absolutely flawless. Here I am now, a little over 3 years after the death of my father, a little over 5 following the death of my cousin. And it's all starting to make sense to me now. And I'm happy to say that I have created a safe haven. I created a safe place for broken people to connect, to encourage, to uplift, and just somebody just to be there. And I'm hoping that I will have the chance to walk hand in hand with many of you who are broken just like I am. We often look at brokenness as a bad thing. If you think about a crayon, although the crayon may be broken, it still doesn't take away from the fact that it will still color whatever you need to. Our brokenness doesn't make us bad, doesn't make us less than. It gives us a beauty that no one can take away from us. It gives us a strength that no one can take away from us. I'm a crier. I cry when I'm happy, I cry when I'm sad, I cry when I'm mad. One of the things that I realized, if God is the catcher of my tears, He can't catch what I don't release. I'm okay with crying because I know that God is catching my tears. And I also know that the tears that stream down from my face is just love in liquid form. And I'm okay with releasing my love at any given time. I am proud to present something that I feel will help many of us just keep going, keep pushing. God laid it upon my heart to create that safe place. And that safe place is called Life Support. Everybody has phones. We normally have them right there in our hands. We normally never leave without our phones. I started thinking, what better way to connect with people through their phones? Life Support is an app where hearts like ours, hearts that have been broken due to loss, it may not always be loss of a person, maybe it's loss of a career, loss of a relationship, loss of something you've never had, but we all do experience it. Life Support is an app where those of us who are broken can come together to encourage each other, to inspire each other, and ultimately just to love on each other. And I am looking forward to walking hand in hand with each of you who are broken. Those of you who just need someone to tell you, hey, listen, it's okay. I may not understand how you feel, but I understand pain. We don't like pain, but pain connects us. And I look forward to connecting with each of you.
Awesome. That was dope.